Hello, aloha. This is Islamic Civilization, session 10, dealing with the 5 pillars of Islam, mostly the practices of Islam. And so today in this session 10, we would cover the 5 pillars of Islam or the Islamic practices. So let's see what we have in the presentation. So here is session 10, Islamic practices, also called the 5 pillars of Islam. So in this session, so for the objectives are concerned, we would deal with Islamic practices or 5 pillars of Islam, saying and believing in the Shahada, and I would explain that what Shahada is. We will be dealing mostly with the praying part of the 5 pillars. So praying 5 times daily, and the next one that we would do in session 11, that would be talking about fasting in the month of Ramadan, and after that we would go into another pillar of Islam, giving charity, called the zakah, and finally going on pilgrimage to Kaaba in Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia. So we would be dealing in this session mostly with the prayers, and in the next one with the fasting in the month of Ramadan, and in the coming one giving charity and going on pilgrimage. So this session is mostly about the prayers, and I thought I should alert you that all 5, we are not going to deal with all 5 pillars in this one session 10 because there is so much involved in it. So keep that in mind as we move on. So for the objectives are concerned, again, for this session, we will be talking mostly about the Shahada, the affirmation of Islam, the daily 5 prayers, the right times, clean bodies and clean places that are required for the daily prayers, the congregational prayers, and what that means is the most preferred one, the prayer would be in congregation. We would also talk about the mosques, and finally, let's see what is there in the Shahada. Keep in mind when we talk about the Shahada, that is mostly a state of mind rather than pronouncing it on a daily basis, which we do anyway. Muslim pronounce it on a daily basis, but what it means is the belief and the mental state that one brings to it, and that is you have it in the heart and your mind, that the Shahada, and let's see how it looks like and what it means. The Shahada, that is the affirmation of Islam, and that is how it is written in Arabic, and as you know, Arabic is written from right to left, and it reads La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And so let's see the meaning. This affirmation of Islam, saying the Shahada, is sort of a witnessing, because it says, I witness. There is no God except Allah, or but Allah. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Which also means that only God is divine. So keep in mind the implication of Shahada. There are quite a few of them, but I'm giving you the ones that are most needed for people to know. So saying the Shahada is witnessing that there is no God except Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. It also means that only God is divine. None else but God is worthy of worship. And also Muhammad is a human being. So Muhammad is not divine. And that tells you if Muhammad is not divine, nobody can be divine. also Muhammad is the last messenger of God. And so there are a lot of implications. Number one, that Muslims believe that only God is divine. He is the only true God. Keep in mind, this is the same God, though called in Arabic Allah, but it is the same God that sent Jesus, peace be upon him, alayhi salam, Moses, alayhi salam, peace be upon him, Abraham, Noah, Adam, David, and Solomon, all these great prophets, messengers of God that came in one place or another place, in one time or another time, to guide people to the same God. That is what Muslims are talking about. And so that God is the only God, the only true God, which also means Islam denies any other God except Allah. That is one. Number two, only God is divine. Only Allah is divine and nobody else, which also means that only He is worthy of worship. So here is something that a lot of Europeans, and for that reason some Americans later on, a lot of Europeans beginning in 18th and 19th century, they believe that Muslims treat Muhammad just like Christians treat Christ in Christianity, which is not true. In Christianity, Christ is referred to as, God and the Son of God, which Muslims completely do not believe in it. Muslims do not believe that Muhammad is divine. He is not God. Only God is God. And so Muhammad is a human being. So it was a very wrong thing on part of Europeans who really did not know about Islam, and yet they would write about Islam. And so they believe that Muslims worship Muhammad, which was a wrong thing on their part to believe, because Muslims do not worship anyone except Allah. And so they termed Islam as Mohammedanism, and calling Muslim Mohammedans, just like you can call Christians as Christians. And so Muslims do not take their name from Muhammad. They take their name from the name of their religion. Muslim means a person who believes in Islam. And what is Islam? Islam means surrendering to God, surrendering your will to the will of God. So Islam is not named after anyone. It is named after an idea, which is to follow God, to worship God, and none else but God. But anyway, the Europeans, they had their own, sort of a wrong thinking to think wrongly about, incorrectly about Muslims. And so I wanted to give you that, correction right here, that Muslims do not worship Muhammad. They treat him as a human being, as a great messenger of God. In fact, the last messenger of God. And so that all these implications that are there in the Shahada, which also means if a person believes that, there is someone else beside God worthy of worship, that person is out of Islam. If someone believes that Muhammad is divine or, God-like person, that person is also out of Islam. If someone believes that there is another messenger of God, another prophet of God coming after Muhammad, that person is also out, because Muhammad is the last messenger and nobody comes after him. Now, there can be a lot of people, it's the, whole world, there can be a lot of people who can claim that, no, we have a messenger who was born in 19th century or 17th century, or even now in the 21st century, they can claim that someone, that I'm a new prophet from God with a new book or no book. And so anyone can claim anything. And in fact, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he died, soon after his death, there were people left and right who went up with this claim saying that now, one or another saying, I'm the new messenger, I'm the new prophet, Muhammad is dead, and I'm the new one, just sent. And so these were, false prophets, and it created, and we would talk about that later on when we go back to the history what happened, soon after the death of the Prophet. And so there were false prophets. And so that is why Muslims are very much aware of this fact of the false prophets. They can, pop up anytime in any place, any period, among any people. And so Muslims are very much aware of that. And so Muslims believe that Muhammad is the last prophet, messenger of God, and there is not going to be anyone after him like that. Okay, so I think that those implications are very clear now. And so keep that in mind, because that would be one of the questions that you might be asked in this session. So let's see further what we have. Muslims pray 5 times a day. That's another pillar of Islam, the second pillar of Islam, very important pillar of Islam. The most frequently observed pillar of Islam is the 5 times prayer. And let's see these timings. Here is the first prayer in the morning, and that is done about 1 hour before sunrise. So today, March 15, 2012, sunrise was 6:41 a.m. So you could look at it. So 6:41 is the sunrise. So 5:41 was this first morning prayer. Okay, 5:41 a.m. Then the second prayer is in the afternoon. That would be around, whether summer or winter or fall, it's always 1 p.m. almost everywhere. The third is in the late afternoon around 4 p.m. The fourth one is just about sunset, soon after sunset. So the sunset today was also 6:41 p.m. So today we had a complete 12-hour day. And so the first prayer was in the morning, 1 hour before sunrise. And the fourth one is soon after sunset, 6:41 p.m. And the evening prayer, that would be around 8 p.m. So it's always something like the fifth prayer would be 1 hour 15 minutes after the sunset, the fourth prayer. So these 5 prayers, as you see, there is a big time between the morning and the afternoon, and then the whole night between the fifth in the evening till the first one in the morning. So that is how the times are spread over the whole day, from very early morning till evening. So those are the 5 daily prayers. And there is a global map of prayer times. This is now like a static, but if you go on that website, it moves very slowly, of course, and it moves according to the speed of the earth that we feed it. And so that is how the whole globe is naturally divided through the 5 times of the Muslim prayers, which means if somebody is praying here in Hawaii, the first prayer, so somebody is doing the second one somewhere, similarly the third one somewhere, and the fourth and the fifth prayer. So at the same time throughout the globe, everywhere Muslims are praying. And so the globe is never without a Muslim prayer at any given time. And so that is how the globe is divided into, naturally in the 5 prayer times. And there is a lot of time, for rest in between or work in between if you want to. So here is the color coding for when you look at, at the PowerPoint later on, you have the color coding, how it works. And so let's move on. Now the prayer directions. Muslim pray in the direction of Kaaba, which is also called Qibla. The direction to the Kaaba is called Qibla, and that is, Kaaba is located in Mecca, as you know, which is in Saudi Arabia. So on the right side of your screen, you have that converging point. That is Mecca. That is where Kaaba is. And so all these people, and the other on the left one, the left point, that is the opposite side of the Kaaba. So from every direction, you have Muslims praying in the direction of the Kaaba, and that is how the direction is determined. There is another one right there also, the middle point, that is Kaaba in Mecca, and so the direction would be determined by the place where the Kaaba is, or where people can find the Kaaba. Here in Hawaii, we find it between north and west. So if you pray in the direction of northwest, that would be the direction toward Kaaba, and that is our Qibla here in Hawaii. Let's see further the 5 times, the prayer time and the direction, just to put it on the same screen for you. You can look at your PowerPoint later on to see the timing and the direction. Especially if you go on their website, you would see it moving. The direction would be moving, the time would be moving. What all this is, basically these 5 times, although some of you might say, well, it's too many times, praying, and that's the whole idea, is that we go again and again back to God, in the 24 or 12 hours. And so we keep in touch with God. Prayer is the most important, significant, most crucial pillar in Islam. No other pillar is as much repeated by more than 1 billion people on planet Earth. And so when you go to Muslim countries, you see on a daily basis, you would see from your hotel that people are going to the masjid, where you say, they just came out. And so there would be, and every time there is the prayer time, there is also the prayer call, called the azan, A-Z-A-N, azan. And so you hear the azan, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And so people would, hear that, and they would go to, in response to the call to the prayer, they would go to the mosque. And so you see, in Muslim countries on a daily basis that people go, and come out of the mosque on a daily basis, 5 times a day. It sounds like a, difficult thing. Yes, it's not easy. I have to be honest with you. It's not easy, especially the morning one and the late evening one. But you get used to it and you do it. Okay, let's see what else we have. Staying with the daily prayers, Muslim pray 5 times a day, and in between you work and rest between the prayers, or whatever you want to do. If you are on vacation, you just rest, don't work. And so what this prayer is, it's a constant contact with the Creator. And so you keep the Creator constantly in your mind. Seek His help, blessing, and forgiveness. Every prayer that you go, you ask His help, you ask for God's blessing, and you ask for God's forgiveness. You not only pray for yourself, but also for your loved ones. And this also gives you a very close contact with the community, because you go to the same masjid, to the same mosque as other people come, and you know them, on a daily basis. 5 times a day you meet the same people from your village or from your city block. You know them, they know you, and that is the whole idea. If someone is sick, they are not coming to the mosque, and they're sick, then you go and do the sick visiting the sick, and then also you could help his family if the person needs help. So that's how this prayer, what it does, it brings people together. Although it's a commandment of God to pray, but at the same time, this commandment of God, this pillar of Islam, or this practice of Islam, brings people together under one God. So worship is, as you know it from the church, on a Sunday at least, when people go to worship God, there they also meet people. But that could be just one Sunday, but here you have 5 times a day. So there is the meeting of the people, while they worship God, and that's a wonderful phenomena. People, if some people, they are not on talking terms, you can have, some sort of a reconciliation between the two of them. And so it brings people again and again in contact with themselves and with God. And that is the whole idea behind the prayer. It keeps people, reminding them again and again who they are. the creation of God and who the creator is. So it's a very good contact point with God 5 times a day, and also with fellow human beings. Let's see what else. Okay, now, so preparing for the prayer. Muslims, they wash body parts before prayer, and almost every mosque would have these, water tapes and seats, and so people sit there and they wash body parts. So that would be, wash your hands. They wash hands. They wash, rinse their mouth and nose, and wash their face and their hands and their feet, and that's it. So those are, this is called the ablution, A-B-L-U-T-I-O-N, ablution or wudu in Arabic. So Muslims wash body parts before they pray. Before performing prayers, Muslims, so their bodies and clothes must be clean. They have to keep that, clean. Perfume is recommended, but not required. Okay. Place of worship must be clean. And so some people that have, and they are widely used, these prayer mats and prayer rugs. You would see them throughout, the Islamic world in Muslim countries, and here also, in the United States with Muslim, every house would have a prayer mat or rug. Before performing the prayers, Muslims take full bath after a sexual activity. And one has to keep themselves clean, and this is a verse from the Quran. Allah loves those who keep themselves clean and pure. According to a hadith, and you know what hadith is, which is the saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And so according to a hadith, according to a saying of the Prophet, cleanliness is 1/2 of faith. And so keep that in mind. Muslims, when they go to pray, they have to keep themselves very clean. They have to wash themselves after a sexual activity in between the prayer, at home or wherever, when, they're together as husband and wife, then they have to take a full bath. That is required for both men and women to take bath, and after that they can pray. Cleaning the body clean, the place clean, the clothes clean, that is very important. In fact, these are conditions for praying, any prayer at any time. Okay, let's see what else. Different prayer positions. There is, the standing position, there is the bending position, there is the prostration, complete, look at, the person on the right side, complete prostration. And so that is the reason we go into different body parts, and it shows humility, it shows submission to God, and one has to stand, very quietly and say things from the Quran, and every Muslim would know something from the Quran to recite. Congregational prayers. Now, the most preferred prayers are those that are done in the mosque and in congregations. Okay? One can do it individually, especially for men. They must go to the mosque and do it 5 times a day in congregation. Each village or city block has its own mosque, okay? And some maybe more. Each community supports its own mosque. Governments and rich families also financially support mosques, and the schools that are attached usually to the mosques. Staying with congregational prayers, women are not required to pray in mosque congregations. They are not required to go to the mosque, okay? And I will tell you why. But they can go to the mosque and pray in congregation if they wish. So nobody can stop them if they want to, but they are not required by Islamic law to go to the mosque. They can do their prayer at home. Women and men pray simultaneously, but separately in same mosque. if they go to the mosque and they want to pray in congregational prayers, in congregation, they would do it together, but they do it separately simultaneously but separately. So men and women are not mixed while they pray. A Muslim woman can serve as an imam, as a leader for women only. And so there are a lot of things that even some Muslim people, they don't know. Muslim women can lead prayers, provided they lead it only for their women folk. And so, and I will tell you, why is that? So Muslim men and women do not pray together side by side. Men pray side by side together, women on a side, another place in the same mosque, but behind a wall or behind a screen, they pray together on the other side. And so under the same or after the same imam or after the same leader, they do everything the same way. They say everything the same. And so the whole prayer is the same for both men and women. But the difference is they have to say it and stay separate in congregation. And some mosques they do provide, not all mosques though. Especially in villages, mosques they don't have those facilities, particularly for women, for washing. And so the city mosque, especially the big ones, they do have facilities for women, and that's why, if they want to come to the mosque and do pray in congregation, they can do that. Nobody has the right to stop them. And so I just wanted to clear that out with you. Let's see further women prayers. And right there you have, Muslim women. They lead themselves in prayers, and there is the one lady ahead of the five ladies. And so think about it, the imam, the leader of the prayer, if she is standing in front of men, that would be a very uncomfortable situation for her. Okay, but women among themselves, they can lead one another, they can stand, and whatever they want, in prayer they can do that. But men and women do not mix in prayers. Okay, let's see. Staying with women prayers. Here you have Chinese Muslims in China. And so the imam in that mosque is a female, which means also that the same mosque is used by men. And when the male imam leads, then there would be men and women, under his leadership, they would pray the same prayer, but again, separately. But here you see women all together because they are led by a female imam. Different places for prayers. Now here, a group of Muslims, they pray in this Umayyad mosque in Damascus, Syria, one of the oldest mosques in the history of Islam. Now that's what I meant. Think about it. These men are lined up behind, another man, the imam. Now think about it. If this was a mixed group of men and women, in that type of a vulnerable type of a position, that would not be a good idea. And I don't know about you. I'm a human being, and if I'm, in that position next to a beautiful woman, I think there goes my prayer. Okay, and so that's why it is very important to know that we are human beings, and we have rich imaginations. So I don't think you can have men and women in that position praying together. Or think about it, if a lady leads men in that position, I bet she would be in a very, I don't know about you, but I think she would be in a very uncomfortable position. And so why Muslim men and women do not pray together? The reason is simply that because we go into different physical positions that would not be comfortable for both men and women to be together. And so that's why men to men and women to women, they pray after the same leader. If women want to have their own prayer separately, and they do that, they can have their separate prayer after a man or a woman. That is their choice if they want to. Okay, so I hope that point is clear. Because of the physicality, that is the way Muslims pray. They do not sit in chair and pray unless and until the person is too old to stand, bend, and go into prostration position. Then those elderly men and women, they have they do sit in chairs and they pray. But otherwise, Muslim and men and women, they do not pray together in the same place. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, different places for prayer. So the one you saw in the mosque here is also Muslim pray, and this is in Saint Petersburg in Moscow. In Russia, Saint Petersburg Mosque in Russia. Here you have a group of Muslims, quite a good big community, and they are praying there in the mosque. But it doesn't have to be a mosque. Here Muslims, I believe this is in either Malaysia or Indonesia, they are praying in a hall, which they turned it into a mosque, in a university. I believe this is the technical university in Jakarta, I believe. So they are praying in the university. So some colleges and universities and workplaces, they have their own little mosques, and here you have one on campus of a university. Here you see Muslims praying in public park, especially the Eid prayers that we would go into it later on. What I'm saying here is that the most important thing when it comes to prayer, the most important thing is the community. And that community, if they don't have a big mosque, they can pray anywhere they want to. They can pray as long as the place is clean, they can pray in a park. So the place is not a condition. The condition is the community. For to be in congregation, the condition is community, not the place. So if you have 2-3 Muslims and they are on campus, and it happens a lot throughout United States and Europe, because most universities, they don't have mosques. So Muslim students and professors, they get together in a room, and there in the room they pray in congregation. But that room could be somebody's office or someplace, and like here at Manoa, sometimes we go to the ballroom in student campus. There's a ballroom, huge big place, and we get together maybe 100, 200 Muslims, and we pray there. Not on a daily basis, but once a year, or maybe once in a while when we too many people, then we go there and pray there, the Eid, especially the Eid prayer. So what it means, any time, any prayer time, if 2-3 Muslims, they cannot go to a mosque, they can pray their prayer anywhere they want to, or in open or in closed room. So keep in mind, the congregation of the people is the most important feature of the congregational prayer. Let's see what else. So different places for prayer. You can pray anywhere. Here is, interestingly, last year, the Tahrir Square in Cairo, in Egypt, there was a huge big revolution, which, brought down a dictator, Hosni Mubarak, the president of Egypt. And here you have, these are like, thousands and thousands of people who wanted to pray in the square, in public square in Tahrir. Tahrir means freedom. In the Freedom Square in Cairo, downtown Cairo, and there you have. This picture is very important. As you see in the front, ladies in the front, and behind them they are all men. But keep in mind, between the men and women there is a barrier. So when these women, they go into bending position or prostration position, at the same time men go, and there is no way for the men to look at them or see them, and most probably, they won't do that anyway. But at the same time, there is a good separation between the two of them. And I thought that was a very interesting picture to see women in front of men, and maybe rightfully so, because it's a huge big revolution. coming, and so people said that yes, we can do it, and let's do it that way. The more important thing for them was to pray, and I believe this was the special Friday prayer, and there you have them. Okay, so you can pray in the square, public square also, and you can also pray in prison. This is somewhere in USA. Okay, a Muslim in a given prison, I don't know, that has to be somewhere in Chicago, I believe. A big, prison, and you have a lot of, Muslims. Still, the Muslim population anywhere in the United States in the prison is very low. But those who are there, unfortunately, for one or another reason in the prison, at least they should reform themselves. And the best reformation, individual and collective, would be to get in contact first with their Creator and repent to the Creator, to God, to Allah, to forgive them. And when they get out, they need to go and seek forgiveness of the person that they might have hurt. And so that is how it works. It's not just only the forgiveness of God that a person needs, a person also needs to go and seek the forgiveness of the human being whose, property they damaged, or, they damaged their honor, respect. So they need to go to the person directly and seek their forgiveness. And so that is how it works, forgiveness in Islam. And there you saw, Muslims praying even in prison. So you see them praying on campuses, in parks, in offices, whenever, and some would prefer to do it, individually. They can do that also. In men, praying at home individually or in office individually, and that is perfectly all right. But as I said, the most preferred prayer would be the one which is done in congregation with people either in the mosque or outside the mosque. Okay, let's see what else. The role of the mosque, and that is also a big theme in the history and the religion of Islam. And so here I have quite a few mosques for you. And some of these mosques, they are great architectural monuments. They cost a lot of money, so you need to have, even sometimes rulers and states to support them financially, especially in the, construction period. Also, there are great historic mosques from, 8th century, 9th century, 10th century, just like you have a lot of, historical, wonderful churches and synagogues and temples around the world. And so are the mosques, very historic mosques. And some of, modern, done according to, the great modern and postmodern artistic designs. And I show you quite a few of them. Every country and county has, its landmark mosques. If not every county, at least the country. It has, its landmark mosque that would be known for that place and people. Okay. And all of them are built in the direction of Kaaba in Mecca, because Kaaba would give them, the direction to the Kaaba would give them the right direction, which is called Qibla. So they are all oriented toward Qibla, toward Kaaba. Now, speaking of the direction, here in the United States, as well as in Europe, sometimes it happens. And it happened also when I was, in 1988, in summer 1988, I was in New Jersey. And a group of Muslims, they informed me that they were going to buy a church and convert that church into a mosque. Well, what happened to the church? The Christian congregation did not show up on Sundays, and for long times, and maybe for more than a decade. And so the church administration decided that it was not financially, viable to keep the church and pay for its bills. And so they decided to sell the mosque. Now, there were other people who wanted to turn the mosque into one thing, or the church into one thing or another thing. So the local Muslim leaders, they approached to the church leaders and asked them if they would like to sell it to them on whatever price they were selling to anyone, maybe they could pay them a little bit more. And so they convinced the church leader that it would be good for the church leader to sell it to the Muslim, people to use it, as still it would stay as a place of worship. The Muslim leaders also reasoned with the church leader that we believe in the same God. You may or may not recognize that, but that's up to you. But so for us Muslim, we do believe that God is the same God of Christians, of Muslims and Jews. And so God sent Moses, God sent Jesus, and later on Muhammad. It is the same God to direct us towards him. So it would be good if they sell it to the Muslim to convert the church into a mosque. And the church leaders agreed on that. And so the Muslim bought the mosque. Now when I went there, the interesting thing was that mosque was built of course, without any design or intentions. It was built exactly in the direction of the Kaaba. So Qibla was exactly the same thing, and Muslim did not have to change it, because sometimes they cannot buy a place if the direction is not towards Kaaba. But this church, thank goodness, it was already oriented exactly to Kaaba. And so they were very happy with that, and that was, I believe, an added point for the Muslim to buy that church, and it was a real, good thing for the church leader to sell it to the Muslim and let the place stay as a place of worship, because it is the worship of the same God in a different way, of course, but still it's the same God, and the same place would stay as a place of worship. Okay, let's see what else we have. Staying with the mosques. Some mosques maintain madrasas. Madrasas are theological schools for children where they can learn Quran and Hadith and practice their religion. Mosque and market, they go together. You would never have a mosque without market, and never a market without a mosque. So praying and buying and trade and religion, they go together. Sometimes political uprising can start in Friday mosques, and it happened, in the Arab Revolution. Everywhere in the Muslim world, when people rise up, they mostly rise from, maybe outside the mosque, but then they come to the mosque and they, start thinking about and talking about. So that's how the mosque becomes involved in the local politics. This is what I said. The Arab Spring Revolution also used mosques very widely. And so some people say it's not a good thing. Keep religion and politics, apart, separate. But then in Islam, it's difficult to separate them. Okay. Here are a couple of mosques. This is the Abuja National Mosque in Nigeria. Boy, it's stunningly beautiful. Here is the Sultan Ahmad Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey, another very historic mosque in Turkey. Hagia Sophia Mosque in Turkey, also very historic. This one, it used to be a cathedral church. And so when the Turks, they had been fighting, even before they became Muslims, the Turks and the Greeks, they had, before the Greeks converted to Christianity and the Turks converted to Islam, they had been fighting. They were fighting all along, And so after the Greeks converted to Christianity, they kept the fight. After the Turks converted to Islam, they kept the fight. And that is how the racial animosity between the two groups also took on the religious animosity between the two of them, because the Greeks converted to Christianity, the Greek Orthodox denomination, and the Muslims converted to, the Turks converted to Islam. So in 1453, that fight, the long fight between the two of them, culminated in the defeat of the Greek Byzantine Empire and in the victory of the Turkish Ottoman Empire in 1453. And so the Turks took over parts of the Greeks, especially Istanbul, which used to be known as Constantinople, which before Christianity was known as uh, sort of by its old ancient Greek name. And so King Constantine converted that. It was known Byzantium, in fact, that city. And King Constantine, when he conquered it, he converted it and renamed it as Constantinople. When the Turks conquered it, they changed the name and renamed it as Istanbul. So in 1453, they also took over the Hagia Sophia church and turned it into a mosque. Later on in 1920s, the Turkish government, there was a big revolution in Turkey. They decided to keep that mosque as a museum. And so Muslims were told you cannot pray anymore here, of course by their rulers, Muslim rulers. And so now the place is much more like a museum rather than a mosque or a church. So it has happened in the history of Europe. Mosques, especially in Spain, where Muslim ruled for more than 500 years, all those mosques were converted into churches or cathedrals because they were, stunningly beautiful. They were great structures, and so that has happened a lot in the history of Europe between Muslims and Christians. So this Hagia Sophia is now a museum, but again, a good place. I mean, used to be a church and now then converted to mosque. Okay, let's see what else. Hagia Sophia in Turkey, that's the inside, the domes, and they're very beautiful. And right there, I hope you can see the, the details on your screen. If not, then you just go online and check it out. It's a beautiful, magnificent building. Okay, let's see what else. Mosque in Paris and London, and they're very old, made in 1920s and 30s. Especially the one in Paris. It was built in 1922. And the London one, I believe it was built in 1930s and more, added stuff to in 1940s. The one in Paris, it has a strange history behind it. It was built in 1922, completed in 1922, but it started in 1920. And the story behind that mosque, the mosque in Paris, is that the French government realized that quite a few Muslims, in hundreds, in fact, they came and fought for France against Germany in the First World War. As you know, First World War was fought between 1914 and 1918. So it was, between Germany on the one hand, France and England and Russia and United States on the other hand. So the French Muslims who were already in France, and some from the French colonies like from Algeria and Morocco, they also came to France and got recruitment in the French army because France needed, people to fight Germany. And as you know, Germany very powerful. It could do a lot of bad things to France, so that's why the French needed as many people in its army as it could. So quite a few numbers, in hundreds, they say, some people say thousands, they came to France and got recruitment in the French army and supported the defense of France. And after the war ended in 1918, the French government decided to thank the Muslims, the ones who especially were living in France, and get them a mosque right there in Paris. And that is how the story behind the Paris Mosque. It was built by the French government for the French Muslims in recognizing their war efforts in the defense of France against Germany, Imperial Germany of Wilhelm Kaiser I. Okay, let's see what else we have. So there were the two mosques in Paris and London. Here is a Jamia Masjid, a grand mosque in Bastak in Iran. Here's another one in Pakistan, one in Kazan in Russia. Well, that's a beautiful mosque in Russia. And here comes Michigan, USA, right, in Dearborn, and that is also, very beautiful. So I thought if you have one in Russia, you should also know one in the United States. Now, mosques are community centers for Muslims also. So mostly in the United States and Europe, Muslim men and women, they get together in the Islamic center. So some of us, we call it Islamic center, and some, just mosque. So almost every Islamic center has a mosque, and vice versa. So wherever you have an Islamic center, that would be also a place for Muslim to worship, and they would have an imam, the leader of the mosque, to lead them in the daily 5 prayers. Also, there would be a mosque, and all of them are maintained here in the United States by the community itself. And I mean, they usually do not take donations from other people, not from non-Muslims, but if non-Muslim want to help them, they can do, and especially in the education of children. Some mosques have their own schools, Muslim schools, just like you have, Catholic schools or Christian schools and Jewish schools. Muslim also in the United States have schools for their children. They are secular schools, but at the same time, they also teach religion, especially the Quran, Hadith, Arabic, Islamic etiquettes, Islamic morality, and that gives them, a chance for Muslim young men and women to stay together and out of trouble. Okay, let's see what else. So there you had a mosque in Michigan, and here is one, the Islamic Center, a mosque in DC, and there Mr. Bush, President George Bush, he went there in 2007 and reassured Muslim that the war in Iraq or Afghanistan, that was not a war on Islam, and that was a very good message, and people liked it. And so right there you have him inside the mosque in Washington, D.C. There he went in 2007. Now here, President and Mrs. Obama in the Istiqlal Mosque in Jakarta, Indonesia, in 2010. And as you know, President Obama, when he was a young man, he lived in Indonesia. So his mom was married to an Indonesian person. So he also went to mosque when he was a kid. He went to the mosque, and I think of most non-Muslim countries, head of the states, he's the one who knows a lot more about Islam, mosque, and Muslim people, and that's why he is very much liked in the Muslim community here in the States and throughout the Muslim world. Okay. Here comes a reaction report at you, and there is no number like it has number, session 10, but no 1 or 2, because that's the only report that you have in this session, which I think is good for you. So you need to write brief notes on the Shahada, the 5 prayers, and when it comes to the prayer, you need to answer these questions like when to pray, where to pray, and why Muslims pray, and how Muslims pray. Okay, so the when, where, why, and how Muslim pray, you need to answer those questions also. Make sure that when it comes to the assignment, the reaction paper or reaction report, please, again, do not summarize my lecture for me. I know what I told you. What I do not know is what you think of it. So I really need your perspectives on what you learn in these sessions, in this class. I really want to know what you think, so your very personal opinions, views, perspectives, comments, those are the ones that I really value. I know what I told you, but I want to know what you think of it. So please, if you have, any picture of a mosque that you visited, or any Muslim country that you visited, you can share some picture with me or with the class if you want to. But keep in mind, they have to be copyright-free pictures. Do not just go and download, from a website. And if they have, copyrights, you need to observe and honor and respect the copyrights. So do not send me anything which has a copyright problems. If they're your personal pictures, and I have a lot of students who have been, to Afghanistan, to Iraq, or one country or another Muslim country. So, and they have, shown me their pictures. In fact, the first time I saw the Mindanao mosque in southern Philippines. Yes, in the south of Philippines, you have a huge, big Muslim population. You may not heard of Filipino Muslims, but there are Muslims in Philippines, and they have a mosque also almost everywhere in Mindanao. And so she brought me a picture of this mosque in Mindanao, and boy, it was, I mean, not really a grand, you know, structure, but still a very beautiful mosque, and I really appreciated that she brought me that picture from the mosque. So what I have in review, we talked about Islamic practices, the Shahada and its implications. The daily 5 prayers, we talked about that. The time and space of the prayers. The mosque, we talk about that too. The role of the mosque in Muslim society. And so I really would like you to stay engaged with me. If you have any question, any comments, you are most welcome to ask me via Laulima. And the best way is to, you know, send me your messages via Laulima, your assignments and messages via Laulima. By the way, keep in mind, again, if you have anything to share with me as I ask you, please make sure that the picture is copyright free. It does not have any copyrights. That'd be great. Thank you very much. Aloha.